Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's a Friday edition. Hope everyone's had a great week. We got a good show lined up for you today. We're going to be joined by Michael Collins. You can follow him on Twitter at ESPN Caddy. And then in the second portion, we'll be formed by former Gator offensive lineman Deac Story. But let's go ahead and head straight to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by ESPN's Michael Collins. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, Shane?
Not too bad. Well, let's jump into it. The PGA Tour is going to kick off next week. I want to say in Fort Worth, Texas.
That's correct. Yeah. So Charles Schwab Challenge.
Yeah, let's
Colonial.
Talk. Yeah, Colonial. I've actually played there. Good little golf course.
Hogan's Alley.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the process that the PGA Tour players are going to have to go through with all the COVID testing.
So they sent out a home kit. And they asked players and caddies and people, they're calling it being inside the bubble. So all the pertinent PGA Tour personnel that will be in contact with each other, players, caddies, and PGA Tour officials, they sent them a home kit that they were hoping to get everybody to get tested with saliva and sent off. They wanted that done within 4 days before they traveled. And then within those 4 days, they asked everyone to self-quarantine. When you get to the event venue, hotel, you'll be tested either on site at the course, or I think they're doing the tests at the hotel because they're having players, caddies, and those people inside the bubble all staying at one hotel to keep everyone kind of in the same area. So that's where they'll do the nose swab, and they'll do that nose swab for everyone there. That test will be sent off, and then the players and caddies will be able to get out onto the golf course. And from what I have been told, for the practice rounds, players and caddies might be able to use carts during practice rounds. I know at Colonial in the past, each player and caddy would get their own golf cart to go back and forth to the practice area to get their practice in, because the first tee and the 10th tee are not really near the driving range. So that's, from what I understand, is kind of I know that protocol is going to be in place where the player caddy will have a golf cart. And so that'll be utilized to go back and forth the same way that it was. But one of the people that I spoke to that'll be inside the ropes said they thought they might allow golf carts during practice.
From a travel standpoint, a lot of these guys fly, their own little net jets or what have you. Some have to fly commercial, depending who you are. Are they restricted?
A lot more guys have to fly commercial than fly private. So,
right.
But that being said, once you get your PGA Tour membership, once you're in that top 125 of the FedEx Cup points, and you're a full-fledged member of the PGA Tour, one of the perks that you get is a few hours on NetJets. And so the tour was asking guys to please, if you can, use those NetJet hours. Now, the top end guys, some of those guys, either they have their own plane, or a lot of guys, what they'll do is there'll be 2 or 3 guys say, hey, look, let's all go together. We'll all, get a private jet and we'll all kick in for it. So then the cost is mitigated just a little bit on that one. And then, of course, the tour itself is going to have a private aircraft available to go from Fort Worth to Hilton Head. But that, I believe, only has less than 600 seats. And so once all the seats are taken up, I might only be 300 seats or less, because they've already told players and caddies that there won't be enough seats for all the players and caddies. So there's going to be 288 players and caddies. So that kind of gives you that idea. But the players and caddies that I've spoken to that don't fly private, they're nervous. They're nervous about traveling. They're not just nervous about the airplane itself, they're more nervous about the airport, and then normally at PGA Tour events, there are courtesy cars. There will not be courtesy cars available. Now, players have to rent cars. Now, there's 1 to 2 car rental companies that they want the players to use because they're, partners of the PGA Tour. And PGA Tour, says, "Oh, we know exactly how good this is going to be and how they're going to be clean." But let's be honest, that's a corporate decision because they're PGA Tour partners. They're just hoping that all the protocols are followed to a T. But a lot of the guys that I've spoken to are justifiably nervous about this. And with everything now that's going on in the world too, with everyone who's now kind of gone out and been out and into the open, there are a little a potential for another spike to happen. So it's going to be even more important for those guys that are going to these tournaments wanting to play to really quarantine and be kept separate. But it's going to be a challenge.
So a lot of the European players, most of them live in the States, but some still live overseas. Any word from, are those guys just, are, first of all, are they allowed to fly over here to participate
So
in the tournament?
yes, they actually there was a special temporary exemption for those international players that want to come over and compete, that they can get into the country. Like you said, a lot of those players were already here, but there were, that the PGA Tour knew of 25 players that were not in the country. And within 2 weeks ago, the tour was not 100% sure how they were going to get them here because they wanted them to be here and be able to quarantine for a full week.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those players, the problem that they were having was, well, if they came over here and quarantined for 1 week and then played for 2 weeks, they would have to go home and then quarantine again for another week at home. So that for 2 weeks of two tournaments, they would be quarantined for 4 weeks. And so for some players, it wasn't worth it. Now, as I said, there are 25 players that were outside of the country. There are also 35 caddies that the tour knew were outside of the country. Those caddies are having a little bit of a problem
Mm-hmm.
getting into the country. I know a few players that made phone calls to other caddies that were asking, "Hey, would you be available to work if my guy can't make it into the country?" And most of the caddies already were saying, because of, you look at the strength of field of this week that's coming so far, and you think, well, the top caddies are also not having the week off. So if you're in the States, you're working.
What, you get any calls about toting a bag for anybody?
So originally, I did put it out there that and I had a couple of friends that I called and said, "Listen, if you need me, I can be there." But now a situation popped up with my mom, who's in the hospital. She's at Shin. So now I still put out there that if it was an extreme emergency, potentially, but I would say the week that I would the best be available would be Hilton Head, because I could drive to Hilton Head. It's a little easier to get to and also easier to get home if I'm needed. So the one thing that is also going on this next week though is not just the PGA Tour, but the Corn Ferry Tour, which is going on in Jacksonville at the TPC Sawgrass's Valley course. So in that case too, if I was, which I told a couple of friends of mine out there, "Hey, if you need me, if it's an emergency and your guy something happens and there isn't a caddy there, then give me a call." Because that one I could literally drive back and forth to if need be.
Absolutely. We're speaking with Michael Collins on the Titan MR hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at ESPN Caddy, and you see him covering PGA Tour on ESPN. Let's talk about the crazy world we're living in now, Michael. Obviously, Harold Varner, I want to say he's the only African American on tour, had some comments that he came out with. I thought they were outstanding. Just talk a little bit about that subject.
So there's 5 players on the PGA Tour that have African American descent. It's Tiger Woods,
Mm-hmm.
Harold Varner III, Joseph Bramlett, Cameron Champ, and JJ Spawn. So those are the 5 players on the PGA Tour. And I got comments from all five players when I was on First Take earlier this week, and um, I think for me the most poignant take that I got were from two players. One from Harold Varner III, and I would invite everyone to go on Twitter and look at the statement that he put out, which then he got a lot of support from most of the players on the PGA Tour, that are Caucasian and not of African American descent, which was encouraging to see. But it meant a lot when I sent a text message to Joseph Bramlett, and him and I have since that text exchange had a really good conversation about why, I don't want to say why it took so long, but why some people have struggled with coming out with statements, including myself, which I, kind of expressed on First Take. And that is because you know what's right, and you know what you want for a peaceful solution to what's going on. You want there to be peace, you want there to be unity, you want everyone to get along. But at the same time, because of the amount of times that you see things that are unjust and hear people say, as long as there's order and people follow the rules, and you go, well, yeah, what if I do follow the rules and I still something happens, like, or an experience happens to me that I can't express it because you can't understand what's that like, or hearing people deny that things like that happen. The problem with seeing something like what happened to George Floyd and what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, like, you see those things, and there's a part of you that has an anger that says, you know what, let it burn. Go out there and burn it down. And I want, even though feeling that way is not the right thing, there's a part of you as an African American that looks out and says, I want you to feel the fear that I feel. Because so many people say, well, that's not, you must have been doing something wrong and not following instructions. And so you go, okay, if you don't hear me as many times as I'm yelling, we got to do something about this, then you know what? I want you to feel it. I want you to have that fear. I want you to be unsure and question everything, because that's something I got to go through every single day, and you can't fathom it or understand it. And for other people that are out there that question, I mean, I got plenty of friends that kept saying, I don't understand why you burn down your own neighborhood and burn down. And I would try to explain, listen, if you don't feel value as a human being yourself, or you don't think people value you as a human being, why the hell would you value a building? Why would you value a car? Like, you don't have value in yourself, so you think I'm going to value where I'm at? No, I could care less. And again, you weren't listening before, but when it's burning, now you'll pay attention. And so, in conversations like that, those are not comfortable and not easy conversations to have with each other. So, looking out now, it's in talking to Harold and Joseph Bramlett, and the other players of African American descent on the PGA Tour, like, those are conversations that need to be had, but are not easy to have, because there are plenty of people, which we saw, like Drew Brees, who still go, well, here's the thing though. And then you go, wait, what? No, what are you talking about? And then that, again, is in a way a good thing, because you want to know what's in someone's heart, and you want to be able to forgive that person and go, okay, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you feel that way. Can we have a conversation of why that was hurtful to me? And then there's a hard part too of being able to go, hey man, if you're saying that you really are sorry and don't feel that way, I have to be able to forgive you. Like it's my duty then to be able to say, "Hey, cool, man, I forgive you." And we can talk and hopefully move forward and hopefully things will get better. That is very easy to put down on paper and say. And as we now know, it is a very, very difficult thing to actually put into practice.
Yeah, well, I hope our country can eventually come together. I think I was telling someone the other day that I think it should be a requirement when kids are at a young age in elementary school or whatever, they should be required to, you have to be in the band, you have to play some type of sport, you have to do some type of activity because when you're in those groups, you got all walks of life and you learn how to get along with one another.
Well, that's
And
the thing. And racism is something also that's learned. It's taught at home. Like you put you put babies together, toddlers, if you put toddlers together, toddlers, they all play together. They don't know, they have not nothing has been ingrained in them saying, well, this person's different because they look a little bit different. When you hear little kids try to, when you say, hey, where was your friend? They never use color to describe their friends. And so that's one of the other things about everything that's going on right now. And the thing that I'm struggling with is I will no longer say I know a lot of good cops. I'm not going to say that because I feel like that would be like you saying I got a lot of black friends, right? Like that doesn't mean it, there's nothing meaningful behind that. And the reason I'm not going to say that I know a lot of good cops is I'm going to say this. I know a lot of really good human beings that put the uniform on every single day. I also know, having come from a place where my best friend was a cop. I also know, because of knowing so many good people that put on that uniform, that in every precinct, in every station, there are bad cops. And if you put a uniform on, knowing who those bad cops are, and you don't do anything about that and helping getting them out, then you're not a good cop. You can be a amazing person. You can have a heart that is pure. But if you know who the bad cops are and you don't help get them out or say anything about it, then you're not a good cop. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're not a good cop. So I'm not going to say I know a lot of good cops or I know there's bad cops out there. I'll just say that I know a lot of really good people that put the uniform on every day.
we're speaking with Michael Collins on the Titan MR hotline. You see him on ESPN. On a lighter note, what were your thoughts on the Phil Tiger with Peyton and Tom Brady match? I personally loved it. Now, some people that like golf probably like these dudes are just destroying the game of golf because,
Why I don't understand why people would say that. Look, think
well,
about this.
some people would, but I loved it.
Well, let me ask you this. How much more entertaining was the Tiger Phil, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning thing than Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy against Ricky Fowler and Matt Wolff?
Oh, way more entertaining.
That's what I'm saying. It was way more entertaining because, at least with the Phil Tiger thing, two guys, Charles Barkley and Justin Thomas, were the superstars that carried that thing
Mm-hmm.
because of the smack talk that started going around. And think about this. When is the last time that Tiger was involved in an event where he wasn't the big star to shine? I kept telling people
Good point.
this event, you know what Tiger reminded me of? Tiger reminded me of Seinfeld. On his TV show, Seinfeld was the star who had his name on it, but guess what? It was everyone else, all the other characters that shined during that show. And it was the exact same thing. The smack talk between all these guys. And my next door neighbor doesn't golf at all. Doesn't watch golf, doesn't play golf, nothing. And he came over to my yard and said, "Hey man, how good was that with Tiger out?" Wait, what? He goes, "Man, I might play golf now." What are you talking about? He goes, "Man, watching Tom Brady play something so bad. I was like, you know what? If he can be bad at that, maybe I should try it. And I'm like, that when we talk about growing the sport, nothing did more than an exhibition like that. And it's not, things like that are not supposed to be golf at its pure competition form. It's not supposed to be that. So if you went into it hoping that's what you were going to see, you were looking to be disappointed. And
Yeah,
it wasn't. Like, it was awesome.
yeah. What I love the most about it is, when I was playing in the league, we used to have an event where NFL players would go to the Upper Montclair Country Club in New Jersey and play with the senior tour guys. And I tell you, I don't care what your handicap is, how many balls you hit to practice. As soon as they introduce you on that first tee with people lining the ropes, I'm just thinking, please don't kill somebody,
See?
shame the ball. And so
Well,
that's why, Brady and Peyton, as great as they are at their craft, nobody was watching out there, but they knew there were cameras everywhere. They were nervous. And it's just,
and for Tom Brady, I tried to explain to people two things. Number one, that was obviously the first time he had ever played in rain gloves, ever. And Phil too doesn't play good in rain gloves, and you saw that in the first bunch of holes.
the rain was
Like,
terrible.
and does anyone honestly believe Tom Brady plays in weather like that ever? Like, if he shows up at the course and it's pouring down rain and blowing 30, like he's going, "Hey, you guys ready? Let's go." There's no way. Like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go back to Giselle. Good luck with the rest of your day. Like, see y'all later." So that was one of those things that was like, come on, man. But the other part of that too, I cannot tell you the amount of Hall of Famers in every major sport: hockey, basketball, baseball, and football. I mean, Hall of Fame, been to the top of the mountain, best that's ever been. Every single one of them that I talk to about golf say the same thing. They have never in their life felt the nerves that they felt standing on the first tee, either when there were cameras around and no people, or when there's less than 300 people and having to hit a shot in front of people that they've never hit a shot in front of before. And that's one of those things too where you're like, wait, what? You ran out for the Super Bowl. You pitched in the World Series. Like, you won a Stanley Cup. Like you played in the NBA finals and had free throws at the last second. Like, what do you mean you were nervous? They were like, yeah, but that's all something that I've been practicing to do and trained to do. So it's not something I'm uncomfortable in. I'm not practiced or trained to stand on the first tee and hit a golf shot. I'm like, wow, wow.
Yeah. We got a Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Rick says that is the only time that he has watched golf in many, many years, and he loved it. And I agree with him. Let's talk about what's going to happen with the Ryder Cup.
Man, that's a good question. And there's a lot of, as we are now seeing, there's a lot of not controversy, but there is two camps. There is the camp of players and individuals that say, if we can't have fans, I don't want to play. And there is the camp of, if there aren't fans, I'm gonna be even more nervous. And yeah, we should still play because it's still that us against them, and that element of competition in that team format representing your country still matters. But I don't know. I don't know if either of those things are going to end up mattering. I think what is going to matter is, with everything that's going on in the world right now because of what we've seen, if another spike starts to happen, then we'll be in a situation where the medical field and medical experts and science will be the ones to determine, listen, we just can't do this right now. We just can't do it, which would be a shame. But I'm on the side of, and has always been on the side of, no fans is a temporary thing, but there is a really positive thing about this as being a fan first. And we saw that with the US, their UFC. We've seen that a little bit with soccer, and I think we're going to see it in basketball, and we're going to see it in golf. Without fans and that noise, we are going to be able to hear things that we were never privy to before, good and bad. But that's important to hear both good and bad, to understand that this is what real life is inside the ropes or on the court, on the pitch, inside the octagon. And then things like the UFC, like hearing what a real strike sounds like without fans there, and hearing what the chatter is from the corner yelling to the fighters, hearing real conversation between player and caddy or player and player, hearing what happens on an NBA court. I've been fortunate enough to sit courtside at a couple of games, and it's amazing the things you hear that are not picked up by TV. And like football as well. I love Deshaun Jackson saying, well, mic up everybody. You're not going to have to with no fans. All you're going to need is those dudes standing on the side holding them things that look like satellite dishes. Like, we're going to hear all of that kind of stuff. And that I think is fascinating and gives us, people are always saying, man, for us in sports media now, take me as a fan where I can't go. And so being able to hear these sports with no fans takes us where we can't go. And for yes, there's going to be some cursing. And I say this as well. I'm sorry if you as a parent have to have a conversation with your child. Sorry. Sorry that you're forced to have to talk to your kid about what is okay language and what is not appropriate language, and that sometimes adults in situation use language that's not appropriate, and it doesn't make it okay for everyday interactions with each other in the world. Sorry you have to be a parent.
No doubt about it. Last thing for you, Michael. We appreciate you taking the time today. I know you're a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. Are you excited for the National Football League to get started? Look at that gun right there.
That's designed by Coach Doug Peterson himself, right there. I'm still Kevin Nagandi from Sports Center. Still hasn't gotten his tattoo. It's 2 years. Like, come on, man. You're not even gonna get one.
He
You're
ain't
not
gonna
getting
do it.
one.
He
He
ain't
ain't
doing
gonna do it. He ain't gonna do it. Yeah, I am. I'm optimistically nervous for all of these sports to get back. I think, golf, of course, is the easiest to social distance.
it. Mm-hmm.
Basketball, baseball, or basketball and football are the two that make me the most nervous because of the amount of contact that happens during the sport being played. So I think that's where we saw, like in the NBA, it's so easy if something goes wrong for boom, 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 those dots just start lighting up, you know. So as long as we can get to a place where those dots don't start lighting up like crazy, man, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm not gonna lie, like seriously, think about what we as sports fans have been doing. We've been sitting here watching replays of things. We know what's going to happen, and just watching those, we still are like, "Ooh, oh yeah, I forgot. This is gonna be. I wonder if this time is. Why do I think that? I know it's not going to be different, but it's like, so. Imagine when real sports come back and we really get to go all in again. Oh my gosh.
Yep, can't wait. We got one last comment here on Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your business interruption attorneys. Fred says Michael and Shane should play a round of golf together for a charity of their choice. We may have to do that one day, my man. We'll go
I'm
tee it.
in, dude. Hey, yeah, I'm in. I'm in. I tell people all the time because you're a caddy on the PGA Tour. You must be an awesome golfer. No, I suck. I carry the bag that has the name on it. See, I carry that bag. I don't actually have a bag has my name on it because I'm awesome. See, so yeah, you might have to give me shots because I know how good you are.
That's great, man. Hey, I appreciate you taking time out. Prayers to your family, your
Thanks,
mom,
man.
and be safe, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, prayers to everybody out there, man.
Very
Be
true.
safe. Be
Very true.
safe. Be healthy, and let's all find a way to be able to talk. That's the thing. Like, talk without judgment. If we can learn to talk without judgment and be open and honest, we can get to a really good place. We are the United States, and it's true. United we stand, and we know what happens if we're not. So
Good stuff, my man. Well, be
Thanks,
safe.
brother.
We'll talk to you soon. That's Michael Collins from ESPN. You can follow him at ESPN Caddy on Twitter. Hey, folks, relish your vehicle, refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. June is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention the promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Visit them at wrapspot.com today. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we'll be joined by old Gator offensive lineman from the national championship team back in 1996, Deac Story. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. The Best Restoration, Masters of Disasters. Pound Hurt, your preferred personal injury attorneys. Peachland Dental, Gator fans' first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to fall. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish,
Radware, Wrap Spot,
and Style Cuts.
If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate. With premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Skechers, Starbucks, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, Select Shades, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. We're now going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by former Gator offensive lineman, Deac Story. Good morning, Deac. How are you?
Doing good, man. Loving life. Trying to get through all this craziness that's going on right now.
Yes. Well, Deac, when I bring all the former players on, first of all, don't adjust your screen if you're watching us, because Deac and Michael Collins could be twins. They have the same bald head. They got this nice long gray beard working. So y'all could be twins. Do you know Michael Collins at all?
I don't. I was actually when I first popped on. I didn't know. I was trying to figure out how you got my picture before I even got on here. But now, other than seeing him on ESPN, I haven't really met the young man.
All right. Well, Deac, as I was saying, I like to talk to all the former players and talk a little bit about their high school days. What sports did they play other than football? I think you graduated from Winter Park High School. What made you want to be a Gator first, and then what other schools did you almost go to?
Well, it's a funny story that you say that. Funny question. Like, I actually grew up a Florida State fan. I was a huge Florida State fan. When I played little football, our colors were garnet and gold, and when I actually moved here to Florida, to Orlando, with my mom and dad in '92, and from Chicago, and saw how and just gravitated to them just because they had the same colors as my little league team. I actually sat in, and I think you might have been playing. I actually sat in the stands in '93 rooting for Florida State when Charlie Ward came and beat us here in '93.
I
So
wasn't there. I was already gone. 92 was
okay,
my last
92.
year.
Okay. But yeah, I was a huge Florida State fan. But I have family type friends in Orlando, Gary and Beverly Fleming and Ashley Fleming and Ryan uh, Boone Fleming and Brent Fleming. They were huge Florida State huge Florida fans. The entire family. I remember the dog even had a Florida Florida bandana on, and just coming here on a visit, visiting with Coach Spurrier, visiting with Coach Collins. Within, I actually was late because I had a basketball game. You come in Friday night for your visit. We used to stay at the University Central Hotel. I don't know if you remember that place. When I was late getting in, we didn't get in until about 3 a.m. Saturday morning. And I tell you, by noon Saturday afternoon, I was committed. I love the atmosphere. Obviously, I loved one of the things that got me was how the Office of Student Life back then, Dr. Carradine, Tim Mike, they actually had a group set aside to where when you graduate, it was people that was dedicated to finding you work, finding you a job, to transition you out of that senior year. And that was one of the things that was real huge in my decision making. But just the Fleming family in Orlando and Winter Park, they really, they were just good people. My parents were divorced after my senior year, moved up north, and so this family literally took me on as one of their own sons. And so they were all Florida grads and Florida fans, and just kind of turned me on from there.
Who was the main guy that recruited your area from Florida? Was it Jim Collins?
Yes, sir, Jim Collins. And and like I say, funny thing was he came to my house and was recruiting me after basketball practice, and he follows me home. I get out of the car and I have this Florida State rain jacket, and he looked at me. He's like, "Hey, what is this?" And I was like, man, don't worry about it. I was just into the recruiting thing, so didn't really know how it was going on. Didn't really realize how disrespectful it was to have that on, but he took it with a grain of salt and kept on recruiting me. I was recruited. I actually took a visit to Louisville, took a visit to Kansas State, and an unofficial visit to UCF because it was just right around the corner. I lived down the street from UCF. It was UCF then was not what it is now. But after I committed to Florida, I canceled visits to Georgia and Kentucky.
When you look at your Florida playing days, what was it like? The offensive line is always, y'all are different type of dudes. You hang out with one another. There's a great bond among the group. Talk about what it was like with y'all's group of linemen and being coached by Jimmy Ray Stevens.
Well, Jimmy Ray was, man, I tell you, I really felt back then that he would have been one of the best next in line after Coach Spurrier retired or went to the pros. Obviously, for whatever reason, didn't work that way, but I thought his knowledge of the offense was phenomenal. And I coming in and watching playing behind Reggie Green and Donnie Young and Jason Odom, those guys were kind of you're a freshman and you never admit to being shock and awe, but just watching the guys' work ethic, watching the guys seeing how strong they were. Donnie Young, was injured quite a bit, so he didn't get a chance to work out as much, but he was always strong as an ox. I don't know if you remember that. He was a guy who could bench 500 pounds always without ever working out. Reggie Green, I want to say, started, for 4 years as a true freshman, since his true freshman year. And, coming in the SEC and starting as an offensive lineman, even 20, 30 years ago, is pretty impressive. I don't offensive line or defensive line. You start as a true freshman, that means you're a pretty legit player.
Yeah, those Reggie and Jason both started my senior year. They were both true freshmen, and back in 1992, true freshmen, especially offensive linemen, never played them, but we had to play them. I guess a couple of years ago, Coach Spurrier brought back the national championship team, a little reunion at one of the games. Just talk about how cool it was to be a part of a national championship team. I mean, that's every college kid's dream, is to win a national title. I'll be honest with you, I wish I would have been able to have an opportunity to play for one. And Florida got to play for one in '95 and in '96. Being a part of those teams, what was that like?
Man, it was awesome. I remember the characters on the team. Who can forget James Bates? Chris Doran. Even they had already left, but laid a foundation like Mark Campbell, Kevin Carter. You know, Mike Peterson, all those guys defensively, and I look back, those games come on, and you look back at those at the team that played and against Florida State, and look at the Pro Bowlers that were on that team, all these NFL guys that were on offense and defense. Even some of the guys that maybe didn't necessarily have a super big career, but still played pro ball for a little bit. In the sense of Terry Jackson, Reggie McGrew, some of those guys defensively, but that was such a talented team. I don't know if you remember, but we actually, how can you not remember the thrashing that we took on the hands of Nebraska the year before, and even some people could admit that Nebraska team that kind of whooped up on us would have beat some NFL teams that year. But one of the things that we kind of thought, kept in our mind was that a lot of times you had to lose one before you could win one. And, after we got beat, I remember coming back and, Lawrence Wright, everybody knows about Lawrence Wright, how there was one thing on his mind and a bunch of those defensive leaders and even the offensive leaders was getting back, taking care of the things we had to do in the summer, in the fall, or that spring, that summer, and early in the fall, to get back to that dominating fashion. Now, again, if I recall, we needed some luck from Texas in their Big 12 championship, I think it was, to get us in that year. But nevertheless, because we did have the loss to Florida State. But what sweet vengeance we had, getting back at them in Louisiana.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a text here for you, Deac, on the Titan MR text line. Larry wants to know, he can't remember what celebration it was because Coach Spurrier, he has all these celebrations these days as the ambassador. But he wanted to ask you about putting the HBC on your shoulders.
Oh, that was now I didn't use when it happened. I didn't get under him for the national championship. Again, I was just a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken. And so, usually those are senior type guys graduating. They usually get up under him. I know that when we did have the celebration, I'm an old man now, and don't see being under those lights and under 90,000 people. It never gets old. And so I actually had to be standing next to him with Zach Pillar and Thaddeus Bullard, aka WWE star Titus O'Neil, and it just kind of hit us to, hey, let's hoist them off the field one more time. Man, it was awesome. I think I just happened to. There's a couple of shots media wise that people got to happen to get in there and happen to be holding on the coach. But I could see us doing that again. Whenever the next reunion that we have for that championship team.
Yeah. So Deac, you've been in the public educator for I don't know how many years, a long time, and God bless you. I don't know how in the world you do it, but you've dabbled you coached a little high school football, you've coached high school girls and boys weightlifting, girls volleyball. Just talk a little bit about why you got into coaching and how much you enjoy helping young people.
Well, when actually started again, when I graduated from UF and was looking for some employment. Actually had I started my career out in Bradford High School out in Stark. Was out there for 18 years. When I first got the job, they called me. I think it was like a Saturday afternoon. I was at home playing PlayStation, and didn't feel like getting up. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just go on out there. So went out there, and at the time, Scott Wilson was the coach, things happened, and he moved on, and Roland Cummins is from Bradford, and he was a linebacker at Florida from mid to late '80s, and so he kind of got me started in coaching. Loved a whole lot. I learned a whole lot from him as being a football coach. This was back before huddle, when you had to break tapes or break things down by hand. But just love being around the kids, man. It can be challenging, obviously, and it can be a struggle. But the one thing that I've learned is, we all have our own struggles at work, especially either in education or in coaching. And there might be a bunch of kids that you may not have a relationship, or a bunch of kids that you're having a hard time reaching. But for that one kid that wants to have lunch with you, or from that one kid that needs some medicine or a shirt, or even some money or some lunch or whatever, it's always worth it. When you're able to connect with that kid. Over my career, I've had the pleasure of being in a handful of young ladies that I've coached, being in their wedding. I've had girls that I've coached be in my wedding, just stuff like that, lifelong friends. And even some of the young men, following them on Facebook or even connecting with them. Even last year or a couple of years ago, I got a chance to work with a quarterback at GHS that really kind of one of the better just young men. And I'm not just saying that because you're on here, but I'm talking about your son, Luke Matthews, who's at Florida right now. But just, guys like him, Isaac Meacham, Jalen Kelsey, those guys were make coaching easy sometimes, and is worthwhile. So just obviously the relationships that you build with the kids is unforgettable.
No doubt about it. This Day in Sports is brought to you by the Best Restoration. Do you have COVID-19 concerns? Do what everyone is doing and hire the Best Restoration to fully sanitize and sterilize your home or office. Visit their office this week for a free bottle of hand sanitizer when you mention the code Shane. Call 352-234-8994. This Day in Sports, you're going to like this one, Deac. This Day in Sports, back in 2018, American boxer Floyd Mayweather Jr. was named the top earning sports person by Forbes. He made $285 million. Good gracious. Deac, we got a Facebook Live comment here a question brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Jay wants to know, are the walls behind you orange?
100%. I try and keep everything as Gator, as obnoxious as possible. My wife and I, we kind of got into, when we first moved in, we kind of painted the house, and, it's a light, kind of a light blue color. I don't know if you can kind of tell right there. It's kind of light blue. But I was like, I want to have a Gator wall. And so, we put up there, we painted it, and I'd like to have a Gator head kind of painted in, like a hollow Gator head painted in. But she gets mad at me and tells me that she doesn't want it to look like a locker room. Which I don't think
hopefully it doesn't smell like a locker room, right?
No, we don't want it to smell like a locker room. But I like to try to keep it as Gator as possible. Again, it's easy here. I don't know how I would do being in some, like, living in Tallahassee or even somewhere that's not as Gator riddled as a community, But yeah, that's 100% orange wall right there.
Yeah. So Deac, I ask all the guys that play for the HBC, you got to have a couple of stories or one story you can tell us. People love hearing them.
Oh man, there's so many. And I told this once on Bates's show one time that, he was Coach Spurrier was deathly afraid of lightning. Not who wouldn't be. But when the overcast would come in, he would have his umbrella with him, and so we would, lightning. This was now you have so much technology and you can track these storms and this and that. Well, obviously you didn't have as much 20 years ago, but they still had some. And I don't know, I forgot the rule. If there's lightning or thunder within the X amount of miles, then, you got to move practice inside. So what would happen? So we take a couple of guys and kind of hold up, a few yards behind them, and we count, 1, 2, 3, and everybody go, whoa, and point off into the sky. He kind of ducked down like that, and all right, let's go on, take it in. Let's go and take it in. So that and one time he actually, Jason Odom. I don't know if you were not there, but if I don't know if he remembers.
Odom was a true freshman my senior year.
Okay, so he was a senior. Obviously my freshman year, and he farted one time in the huddle so bad that Coach Spurrier called the drill. We were running team offense, and he called practice like practice was over because he farted so bad. That's it. We're done with team. Get on over there and condition. That's how bad it was. But I'm sure there's so many more, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. The lightning story is that's great because he hated lightning, and it wasn't like we'll go over here and wait a little while and come back to practice. It was like, see you tomorrow. Take it in and get undressed. But yeah, so Deac, real quick before we let you go, and again, I appreciate you taking your time. How are your 3 girls doing, and do you expect them to be volleyball players?
I hope so, man. I have a 6-year-old now. I have a about to be 3-year-old and about to be 1-year-old within the next couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that they're all going to be all 6'2", 6'3", and I can send them on down to Mary Wise and to be volleyball players and, strength trainers and weightlifters and stuff. I'm really in love with the inside sports, no offense, but there's, sitting through a triple header of a soccer game is brutal sometimes just because of the heat, especially down here in Florida. So, but yeah, I'm hoping they're going to be nice and tall. And the funny thing is, my daughter is about to be 6, and, she wears clothes that a 10-year-old wears. My 3-year-old, she wears she can wear like 5 and 7-year-old clothes. And so I just look at my wife and I was like, man, you've got some really big kids,
That's funny.
But I'm hoping that they'll be able to, at some point take care of us when they get older. But, right now, just, trying to keep them occupied and, learning and having activity. I tell you, this quarantine has definitely tested your patience as a human, as a father, as a parent, as a teacher. But it's, hopefully that we're able to get everything back safely as possible to, get them. We're going to try and get them back into daycare next week as safely as possible, following some CDC guidelines and stuff. But yeah, man, this doing good. I'm doing good, man. I'm a girl dad. I don't know. We're done having children. But I wouldn't know how to raise a boy right now. This is all about Elsa and Anna and Frozen and pink and purple and my orange wall right there.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff, Deac. Last thing for you, we got a comment here on Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt. Angie says, yay, Deac, so proud of you and Shannon. So you've done a great job, man, raising those girls. Tell your wife I said hello, and y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, then. Y'all take care, Coach. Appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
That's Deac Story, part of that 96 national championship team. Join us on the Titan MR hotline at Center State Bank. We put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Don't forget, we got Ike Hilliard kicking off the week, kicking off next week on Monday. Make sure you follow and like us on Facebook Live. Follow us, please. You can also check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. That's going to be a wrap for today. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Take care. Thanks, brother.